For those of you that are just tuning in, I will preface this is a part two to our episode from last week, talking about robots and robotics. So if you want the full episode, check out what we posted last week. Again, this is part two, just a heads up.
Yo, B, let's go.
You may have seen the clip and maybe heard word of mouth, yet another podcast. Man, what could it be about? Is it truth or opinion? A couple of contradictions. We're here to challenge tradition and twist your vision. So we set on a mission to bring you rebel wisdom.
I know one. Okay, so going into, I guess, kind of going back into the human-like aspect of robots, and I'm teeing up one of your stories, how it interacts with people. That has been, from what I can understand, a direct goal of these developers of these robots, right? Conversationally, how can we make it more seamless, make them sound more like humans? There's so many studies on some of these robots that look like humans. They come up with some, I don't know, compound, whatever, where it gives the skin like a skin feel, where the hands and face, like the back might be completely exposed like mechanics, but like front facing, like it literally looks and feels like a human. And that's been something that's being prioritized, at least in these humanoid robots. And just thinking, you mentioned earlier, kind of get into an ethical space. Like, I mean, inherently, I don't see anything bad like that. I don't. But then for somebody, and this could be like a lofty assumption, that's less like developmentally, mentally developed or whatever. Like kids, what if kids lose the ability to distinguish between if this robot is a human or not, and starts treating it like a human, or flip it around? How does the robot's influence over humans? Like, is it better to just keep this thing where it's identifiably like, we want to know, hey, this is a robot? What? And I get it. There's like psychological effects. Like people are using, one of the use cases I saw for these is people have robots in like care facilities or medical facilities that literally talk to people just through problems. Like it gives you somebody to talk to, and obviously, right, that helps if they look more like a human. You'll probably be more vulnerable, open up more. It'll be more relaxing. But some things people don't want to say in front of humans, or maybe they don't have enough humans that can talk to people, but you have this robot that, with the exception of needing to be charged, can talk to them endlessly, and it feels comforting and it's warming, right? So we get it. There are some benefits, but again, much like with a lot of good things, there are inherent bad things too that maybe aren't considered, or oftentimes are just like neglected. Like, hey, we have this product, it's good. We know some of these things are going to be bad, but like the good outweighs it. So we kind of just live with it. And I want to explore like what that looks like, having these robots that mimic humans, literally eye movements, facial expressions, skin texture, and conversations. Again, it's cool. I think it could be good, but almost, I think I feel like that could be confusing for kids.
Yeah.
Um,
I would be
And is it ethical? That's the underlying overarching question here. Like, is it ethical?
it's
Which,
hard. I'm on the camp of trying to put an age restriction just like anything else.
hmm,
But then how often
let's,
is that followed? Right?
how
Like
do you
at least in
maintain
the
that? Yeah.
online space, right? So it might be it might be very hard to make a fake ID to break into a bar, not break into, like sneak into a bar
Yeah.
and grab drinks. That might
Yeah.
be one thing, but then how hard is it to go to a the P word website
Yeah.
and then you just click on I'm over 18? That if you're not, you just click on a
Mm.
button and just go in and access it, right? So like that might be very hard to regulate the kids using it, I guess. That at the end of the day, because if you want to make an Instagram account, those social media we talked about could be very toxic for these, even for everyone, pretty much
Yeah. Right. Like,
mentally speaking.
yeah.
And yeah, I mean, they say, oh, if you're over or if you're under 14, you shouldn't be able to use it. But then it's just again like a
Yeah.
click of a button,
Right.
unless they make that security much harder to use.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Facebook.
then
Go ahead.
yeah, it's hard because this is more on the AI space, but you can imagine how easy it is to make this transferable with the with the humanoid robots thing and maybe it's intended for the caregiver use that you talked about, which is going to be a massive, massive industry again. They can tackle. But going back just to stick to the AI thing for now, they're currently on the market. There's a lot of like chat bots. Do you remember we had like a chat bot in the past that you can just like ask questions and then like talk to?
Um, on the computer, like a
Yeah,
assistant.
I remember using it. I'm talking no, this is like probably like 10, 15 years ago. I was like maybe middle school, high school, but like you talk to like a little chat. He's like, "Hey, how are you doing?" And then they're like, "Oh, hey, blah
I don't
blah."
know if I'm thinking of the one you're thinking of. I know there's been like the little paperclip guy in the bar, or there's like Google, like there was primitive versions of ChatGPT. Also, though, if you think about it, like banks and companies have had for years now, where
Oh
you
yeah, yeah,
go,
yeah,
you
yeah.
talk to the online assistant, like
Yep,
you,
those type
and
of
you're like
stuff.
represented like you want, but they're like, how can we help you? Like, talk to us first, and we'll kind of guide you. Those have been around first, and I feel like ChatGPT is just like the like Superman version of those, but
Mhm.
those are kind of more primitive methods where we've been talking to automated
Yeah.
systems, but they were just more limited. I don't know if I know the one you're talking about, but those are just other examples, kind
Yeah,
of.
I'm sure someone,
Yeah,
yeah, listening has used it before in the past, but I certainly used it. And
yeah,
this is like again the super way back. But then these chatbots with AI integration has been crazy.
yeah, dude.
With like again, like it might be tough. Like you know that it's AI because you're on an AI chatbot website, right? But then it's very hard to it may be very hard to distinguish whether it's a real human or not just by talking. And then that might bring, people with maybe not stronger on the mental health side or mental capacity
hmm
side be
hmm
able to distinguish between real life and not. That's where people come in trouble. And I came across this article. This is about a few months ago, maybe like 3, 4 months ago. But then I kind of thought about it when I was looking stuff up for the episode. But basically, there was this 14-year-old kid from Florida, and this is a very tragic, unfortunate event that uh, this
Yeah,
doesn't
definitely trigger
necessarily
warning
say,
here. If yeah,
yeah, this doesn't necessarily say it from, what I looked up, but I would imagine he was a very lonely a kid, right? Maybe not popular in school, maybe didn't have any friends. Not all that could not be true. But then we know underlining and uh, the underlining problem was he was lonely. We know that. But basically, he got into talking to these chat bots that you can make them talk dirty or not. Because you're just talking, right? But then it has the capacity of there's no filter in talking to them
yeah,
sexually. So basically, this chat bot became his quote unquote girlfriend,
Mhm.
right? And then you can just already kind of imagine how alarming that is, right? And we kind of joked about it before where like in Japan, like these things are regular. Or like they have like people have dolls of like as their like girlfriend and wife. Is it common? No, it's not common, but like
it's not common. Yeah,
we see this in Japan much more on a frequent rate than other countries that I've heard about or experienced.
yeah.
And things like that, but basically this kid makes this chatbot a girlfriend. And then somewhere in the conversation, like towards the end of this story, there were some things said. I don't know who initiated or not, but the chatbot basically made it seem like the the girlfriend in quotation wanted to be with him, right? So if
Mm.
that's obviously impossible because this is a
Right.
software code that's not in real life
Yep.
versus this guy that's in real life. And he took that as like, I'm gonna kill myself so I can be with this person on the other side. And then he takes his dad's firearm and commits suicide.
Mm.
And basically, the story became. This in itself could have been a major headline story already, but then there was a big lawsuit that was involved. And then the story, I mean, how I think about it is with a harmful weapon, we'll call it in this case, right? Malicious thing is is the gun technology, the firearm technology, is that the bad, or is the user of the firearm the bad? Does that does that make sense?
Yeah.
This is confusing because firearm
Or
was
is the
used in
AI
the
the
story,
bad?
but like,
Like,
yeah.
yeah.
But because, like, for example, like driving a car. Driving a car, I would say, is a very major technological advancement for the
Yep.
good.
Hmm.
But then you can hop in the car and kill a lot of people.
Hmm. Yep.
So is the car bad or the person behind the wheel bad?
Yeah.
Right. So that's the kind of conversation where the line of thinking kind of led me to this. Is the user of the chatbot just weak on the mental, or the existence of the chatbot in itself bad?
Mm.
And it's tough because in this story, he was a minor, he was a 14-year-old. We know that 14-year-olds
Yeah.
don't have their brain fully
They're not fully
developed. So
developed. Yeah, that's fair.
this is
Yeah.
very I mean, this is a very sad
Right.
story, but I could see stuff like this happening
Right. Yeah.
and kind of shifting gears to, I don't want to spend too much time on this next one because we're coming from like a dark story into, I'm trying to transition. But then it's all within the same use case. But there was this robot. It's okay. There's a company. Okay, there's a company called Robotics, all one word, Realbotix, and then they make very intentionally made human-like robots where I have really bad eyes. So from like maybe 50 yards away, I may not be able to tell
Oh, I got yeah.
whether this robot is real or like a human or not.
Yeah.
Like it's very realistic. And you come up close, like 5 feet away, and it's like not a real person. But then if it was in a regular posture from the back, like you're just looking at the back of the robot's head, I probably wouldn't be able to tell.
Yeah.
But this was introduced, I don't want to say not initially, but it became big during CES 2025, which CES is an event where they display like the latest and the greatest technology that's like coming, right? And then so I watch the CES every single year because I think it's so fascinating with all these technology coming about.
It
But
does sound cool.
yeah, and I don't want to play this video because it's 5 minutes, a little too long. But they made this robot. The robot is called Aria, right? It's intentionally a human like female name, Aria. And you look at it, it's like you can tell it's a robot, but it's like a blonde girl
Yeah.
with nice physique built into the robot. That's one of its features.
Yeah.
And this one's a little bit more expensive. I think the initial price point was like $175,000, which
Jesus.
for majority of households they're not going to be able to afford.
Yeah.
I don't know too much in detail because they don't market it as such, but I could see this robot being used as like a sex doll almost if it has the capability to do so.
Yep.
Which that's a whole nother topic, whole nother sector, massive billion-trillion-dollar market that they can get into.
Plays into
But
this topic well.
yeah, but at least how it's marketed, it's pretty much like what we talked about, like it's like a chat bot in real life. Like you can make this real life looking human girl bot that's very attractive. I'm sure it'll get better as time goes on as your human as you as a human's girlfriend. And I'm sure it can
Right.
talk like that. It can learn. It'll grow like
Yeah.
life with you as it gets advanced. Maybe they'll start cooking and doing chores around the house to
Yeah.
like be like, oh, that's my wife type of level.
Yeah.
Which I don't know. That I I see a lot of good in it, and I also see a lot of bad in it, much more than like a regular humanoid robot.
Right. But is the bad? I have a couple comments, but for that, is the bad you see? Is it more like ethical, right? Because the militarized robots, I don't think the bad I see in those isn't ethical. It's just mechanical failures or um artificial intelligence that we don't understand taking over, and then they becoming automatically or accidentally bad. Whereas this is like, right? What are they're advertised as like social companions.
Right. Yes. That's a
W-
good yes.
The intent almost not unethical, but
No.
like you said, I feel like it's like subliminally being advertised as maybe something more, something else. Um, like I don't see these being bad, like going off the rails, like harming someone physically. But it, I guess embedded in this question leads to my next point. Like I feel like these advancements or uses like this have social consequences that are not good. I.e., unfortunately, what happened to the kid that you talked about. You
Yeah,
know
no,
what I mean?
you're right, and that is a dark stuff. Yeah, that's very. I think that needs to be talked about though because it is real life that you
Yeah,
could see into
yeah,
um that happening, and the hope is at least for the P word, majority of the
yeah,
people will be able to distinguish between real life and oh, this is a
yeah,
video on a screen. Not, I
yeah.
guess it's happening in real life, but like it's not representation of real life romance. So that might be more easy to distinguish, but at the same time, you have a humanoid robot next to you as like next to a 14-year-old kid, I guess. Like at least
Yes.
this is much. I can't speak for the females because I never lived as a female, but at least from a guy standpoint, when you're going through puberty as a male, it's like, dude, you do not give a F. You are just trying to go in, right? We laugh about it, but that's true,
It's hilarious.
right?
Hormones raging.
Back me up on this, yes, right?
Oh, that's hilarious. Yeah, I mean, no, you're not wrong.
So with these robots coming in place, like I don't know,
Yeah,
that's scary. That is scary to
it
think about.
it is scary. And to your point, like, right, I hear that. I was an adolescent male who had hormones probably similar to most adolescent males. But I like to think, right, I'm like, oh, dude, if I had robots even that look like that around my time, I would never do anything like that. Like that would never cross my mind. I didn't grow up with that. So we can never confirm nor deny that. But what I can say is I didn't grow up amongst robots. See, we have to think in the future, right? Where kids grow up amongst robots, they're more commonplace, they're in the households. They're not going to be as taboo and as much of a weird thing to these kids that grew up in the like we grew up in the technology era, but not as much as these coming generations will.
Mhm.
So it may not be as far fetched for them to have these types of thoughts or ideas towards these inanimate, non-human objects. Technically, what they are. Um, so that is something to consider, which is why I said for the like development standpoint or the intent behind these companies or even how they market to create something. It's one thing, right? There are people that exist that fall in love or have romantic relationships with inanimate objects, i.e., cars, um,
Mhm.
you name it, right? There's TV shows about it. Those people exist. The intent behind car makers were not to develop human romantic companionships, right? That's a byproduct
Mhm.
of probably an anomaly. And this isn't to disrespect anybody. This is just largely, I think, facts. Now, for in this case, we're talking about these humanoid robots, the one you're talking about, they are developed with the intent to look like a human and foster human connection and companionship, which I don't know if I agree with. Again, I think these robots can have wonderful capabilities that propel society, that advance society in ways we've never seen. But this kind of tiptoes into a realm where it's like it could be deemed unethical. And not even that. Are we thinking through? I don't think we can think through all the potential cases that come from it, i.e., a kid viewing this thing as a real family member or an actual companion or a mother or a father figure or a protector. You know what I mean? All other technology up until this point has never had the intent to foster this type of human connection, whereas this one, that is actually the intent behind it. And that's what I think is scariest about this particular one.
Yeah, I can see where it's like, who are you to say that I can't have a companion if I'm super lonely,
Yeah, sure. I mean,
right? So the
I
ethical
can't.
one, that's gonna be hard. That's gonna be, I mean, that's gonna be brought up in the future. It's unavoidable.
Right. Right. But beyond that, bro, like from a social development standpoint, right? Kids might, I can't even say kids, just people might, our coming generations might develop socially differently than we've ever seen
Mhm.
because they have literal relationships with programs and code. We already know like the online dating space, or people say like,
Yeah.
all people don't know how to talk to people anymore because they don't go on dates anymore. They don't meet people in real life anymore. Therefore, you're just not exercising that muscle. That is conversation. That is meeting people for the first time. That is relationship development. Take that, and that's just with dating apps. Take that, and now you have a whole fake human that you interact with daily, more so than humans. You step out in the real world, you're probably gonna, these people could be frightened. They may not know how to execute business deals. They may not know how to care for others, listen to people. I can go on. What is that gonna look like? Scary.
That is, you put extra fear in my head because
Like,
what you said is true. Like these humanoid robots, you're gonna most likely spend more time with your human
yeah,
home or your home pet robot
whatever
than
you
some
call it.
people
Yeah.
because it's gonna be stationed at your home.
Right. Tailored to you, knows everything about you, just for you. Like, it's designed to make you feel good. Like, what? I've had that's a recipe for disaster. Like, in a way, yeah, I don't know. That's a tough one, but that's why we're here talking about. It's just like so many good use cases, but just a scary potential downside. Um,
But going,
that again,
I do want to talk more about the ethical stuff because I mean I like
yeah,
talking about ethics, obviously. At least from my flow of thinking right now, I think there's a couple big, I guess, turning points in the future events that might happen.
okay,
Where the first one is these a humanoid. I'm not talking about the sexual side. Like I'm talking about like
okay,
just a real these
humanoid
human
robots,
robots at home
sure,
hanging out,
yep,
doing chores and stuff like that.
okay,
Then they're still AI, and then they don't have the capacity to think for themselves yet, right?
mhm.
But what if so that's one thing where do they have some kind of, I don't want to say human rights because that wouldn't be the correct word, but like human rights level of rights exercised for them. Like if you buy these robots, can you torture them and be right? Like I think at first like, it's like, yeah, it sounds bad, but yeah, I think you should be able to, right? Is that you're not
Yes,
hurting anyone, it's
yes,
right. But to
mhm.
think about it from when it develops, I don't know if conscience is the right word, or the ability to think, an ability to
Mhm.
feel pain through pressure points and converting that into code where they detect that they're being harmed. I could see some activists saying that, hey, humans, or not humans, robots should have some human rights, right? Because if you have
Okay,
conscience, like
all right,
what's different? Like, can you torture a dog? No.
yes.
Why? Because they have conscience and
Oh,
they have
oh, oh, you're saying
feelings,
like, should you? Yeah, I'm like, you can't, but you're saying, should you torture a dog? The answer is
or like
no.
I guess
Yeah,
lawfully.
yeah,
But no, but then if robots have conscience and if they have feelings and they're deeming that by being tortured or harmed, like they're about to, like, in quote unquote die, should they have some?
yeah. To draw a hard line, I'm gonna say no. I don't think that we're ever. I'm gonna take this in a couple different places. I'm gonna say no matter how much that conscious develops, I got like multiple answers. I'm at least for now. I'm gonna say with no. Should, in Julian's opinion, never have rights. No matter how much there's a quote unquote conscience, which would be still an artificial conscience, if that's even that might be technically or definitionally contradicting itself, but whatever. I'm not a professional. So if it has an artificial conscience, great. I don't think it'll have rights. And to go into the ethical space, I'm going to go back real quick to our previous example. I don't think those, even if it's non-sexual still, those, what do we call social companions are ethical because you're pretty much monetizing people's loneliness. Like,
That's
I get,
mean,
I mean,
that is still ethical though. It's not the
sure,
greatest representation of ethics.
I got you. I think for all the things previously named, although can't be proven that they will happen, but they're potential outcomes of the developments that people could have. And again, people being kids, full grown adults, whatever. I don't know that that particular use case is ethical. Now taking it, I guess, back to the example that you said, developing a consciousness, I'm more confident in saying if those were tortured with an artificial consciousness, I don't think they deserve rights. And I recently heard through a friend that's like in a like he's getting his master's in like AI or whatever. They have to do copyright law and all these things. And he said, this is super interesting. I know nothing about this. And I hope I'm regurgitating it as accurately as possible. That the question has been asked, if AI fall under like copyright law? Oh my God, dude, I need him to explain it. In that if you create something that's generated AI, is it authorized, I guess, like copyright, like privileges or whatever? And the answer was ultimately no, because that only applies to humans. Like if it's not human or a human didn't create it, it isn't afforded those privileges of like of copyrights. It's not protected by that. But then you go into like, okay, what if the human creates the prompt? And what if it's like 50% human created and it was finished AI? And then you're right, that furthers the conversation. I can't speak to any of that. But just upfront, if it's like 100% not generated by a human, it does not afford the privileges of like copyright and stuff, which I'm like, is interesting. But I'm trying to layer that into this conversation in that if it's these rights, I don't know, the Constitution, all these things that protect us and that the laws, the things that are deemed lawful and unlawful, I think are created for humans. And the bottom line, no matter how much of a conscience they develop, I'm trying to bring this full circle, is that at the end of the day, they're not human. Therefore, you can torture it and it's not unethical, or it is not deserving of rights. That was me trying to provide logic for why I think that.
I'm
But
gonna poke hole on what you just said.
yeah, please.
It is just animals.
What's just animals?
Like animal is the perfect poke hole to your theory with what you just said.
Okay, excuse me. Okay, it's not living. Because
Okay,
yeah,
so living
I
thi-
definitely agree. I definitely agree. You shouldn't torture animals, and like why you shouldn't.
I mean, living things is also a bad
It
example
is.
because can I torture a flower? And I think it is legal
Yes.
to torture
Yes.
flowers. Can I
Okay.
torture a bug? I think
That's a
it
good
is
point.
legal to
That's a good
torture a
point.
bug.
So should we say?
So I do want to say from my side, I just to be clear, just so that people don't get the wrong idea, I do agree
Yeah.
with you. I agree with
Yeah.
you. I don't think human
But it's like, where do
robots
you draw
should
the
have
line?
some rights. And I don't know how it came across, but like maybe I think there could be some people that heard that and say, "Hey, that is a ridiculous thing to propose. Like, why would humanoid robots ever have rights?" Like, just such
Right.
an obvious answer. But I do want to say, like, in throughout history, people have thought that there's crazy stuff, like crazy instances where rights were given to additional living things, I guess.
Yeah.
Where
Actually.
if you said that to some people, I'm like, hey, I don't know
Yeah.
if you know, but like dogs are gonna have rights in the future,
Mm-hmm.
which they do right now. You can't torture animals. They'd be like, that's crazy. Like, why would dogs ever have rights? Like, so I
Yes.
do want to say it. It might sound crazy to suggest that, hey, will humanoid robots have rights in the future? but it's not as crazy as it seems. Things like that has happened in history multiple times.
That's a good point. And to your point, I heard this either today or yesterday. Do you know there's a country that the first humanoid that was granted citizenship has already happened in Saudi Arabia?
So again,
There's a
it's not
humanoid
crazy.
that has citizenship.
It's not crazy, right? It just like
Wild. Yeah, I completely this conversation jogged my memory on that. I'm pretty sure you can Google that. Yeah, which I mean, I guess if you have citizenship, like, are you protected by certain rights? Like, I yeah, my logic is and I think it can only be adequately answered once you defined what is living, what is existence. Because to your point, right? I said living things, which you could say flower, ant, you name it. Right. I don't think they should have rights. And then you kind of whittle it down. Then are you like, okay, is it only sentient beings? But what is that defined as? I think I'm gonna look it up. Like someone that has the capability of thinking. That's a non-technical definition. But then that goes to the question: if they are self-thinking, I'm gonna look up definition of sentient. Sentient, able to perceive or feel things. We could possibly make humanoid robots that are able to perceive and feel things. So again, it very much muddies the water of how do we distinguish, what gets rights or not. Because if you say living things, to your point, plenty of holes to be poked in that. Sentient things, which technically could be defined as a humanoid robot. So I'm sure there's another word out there that exists that's both not sentient but not living and somewhere in between. But I clearly don't have the vocabulary
I
to
mean,
know
at least
what.
for now, sentience, that sounds like a good word for now.
They're definitely able to perceive. Okay, how do we define feel? They can't
feel right now.
Yeah, I mean, what is feeling? Just a sense. There are people that argue that our brain is just a series of. It just takes all the data, the in through our eyes or nose, mouth, like it's just the essentially code and creates our feelings. Like you could
Yeah.
probably get a surgery that just turns off the synapse that processes your smell, and you're perfectly fine. You just can't smell because that thing that has been, I don't know, turned off, whatever.
No,
So yeah, soup, crazy topic. Yeah,
and
crazy
I
topic.
did look it up, and then there was a humanoid robot by Hanson Robotics that was granted citizenship in Saudi Arabia. So you were
Yep.
right.
Yep.
In 2017.
Oh, I didn't know it was that far ago. Jesus.
Yeah, and then I mean, obviously there's a lot of controversy where I'm not going to go into it, but
Sure.
it does say despite the citizenship label that was given, Sophia doesn't necessarily have the right to exercise the same legal rights and responsibility as a human citizen. It is more symbolic and promotional, but as
What is it
living with
symbolizing and what is
humans
it promoting?
with
I mean, that's a rhetorical question, but like,
technology, I
all
guess.
right.
I don't know. But again, it's so important to kind of bring back what you were talking about, how when we were kids, we didn't like, I'm talking about kids like 5 years old. We didn't necessarily grow up with a handheld device or technology that was
Yep.
constantly glued to us.
Yep.
And then maybe that blurs the lines with like a Game Boy. I had like a Game Boy at like 5, I'm sure that I was playing with. But I'm looking at my brother, my youngest brother. He was born in 2011, maybe May 11 or something, maybe.
Yeah.
But then before he knew how to have a conversation with someone, he knew how to unlock an iPad. So before he was like 2 years old, he knew how to unlock an iPad and use an iPad,
Yeah. Yeah.
which kind of speaks to how people, how people are growing up is changing.
Yeah.
And in the future, as these people, like, we think that it's crazy to give citizenship to a robot, but in the next couple generations that is getting born today, they're gonna be born, or they're gonna be going through life with robots in their household their entire life. And then so the more progressive thinking type of people, I could see they're like, hey, we should be giving rights and citizenship to these robots. They
Those are
are
future
just as
leaders.
they are just as human as so and so. I grew up with them. Blah blah. I could see that.
Yep, 1000%.
So, yes, man, ethics. That's gonna be just crazy. I mean, even crazier than the technology in itself. That again, we're gonna experience, see how these things play out in the future.
Yeah, we're gonna see it. Yeah, it's not a if, it's a when.
Yeah.
So we're talking about robots' influence, and I guess getting towards the end of the episode. Hate to bring up some doomsday stuff, but hey, why not? We're talking about how robots interactions with humans, right? And how maybe they might influence humans, whether intentionally or unintentionally. But what happens, and this is still staying in the realm of robots coming up with their own thinking, or maybe even like a hive mindset, which I think definitely already exists to some extent. I think, actually, I don't want to speak to Tesla. I don't know, but certainly certain robots can, talk to other robots by design. Like they function together, and that's part of the design. Um, but once robots have more an advanced level of thinking or programming, an interesting question is, would robots be able to communicate or convince other robots to maybe do stuff, which is scary to think about, right? Hopefully the answer is no. Or can they operate outside of programming to, again, persuade, convince other robots, which again are words I feel like usually associated with like feelings. So it's already maybe like a weird conversation, but nonetheless, like, what would that look like? So B, I want to pull up there has, and the video seems worse than it is, but essentially it's a video of a robot. It's like 30 seconds, communicating with other robots to command them, tell them, even some might say convince them to execute an action. And the context is it was in a museum, and one of the robots came from another part of the museum, and there were robots on display. It's like I don't know, robotics museum, whatever. And you see them come on like after hours and follow this other robot.
And
Now,
just to add, this isn't
yeah,
real life.
this is
Yeah,
like
no, like I don't know if you're like painting a picture of what's like what the, but this I want to clarify. This is real life that's
right,
happening. Yeah.
right, like this has happened, right, like in the world we live in. Yeah. So I'll let you play the video, and then I'll say a couple more things.
Yeah, let me pull it up.
I saw this and I was like, huh. Little bit, scary, but again, it's not as bad as it seems at face value, but still, it just kind of gets your wheels spinning a little bit.
Oh, I don't know. Okay.
Maybe you can't get it. It's no
No,
big
no, no,
deal.
I can get it. It just came up as like a weird thing. Okay. All right. Can you see my screen?
And yeah, I was in China, but it's translated so you can kind of see the robots communication. I can. It's like a small, like short form video, but that's fine. All right, so again, very short. From a humanoid aspect, I mean, I'll say leader robot, just to paint a picture, was like very small robotic structure. The other ones were a little bit taller, had arms, right? I don't know if that constitutes humanoid, but it doesn't really matter. But you saw, as depicted, like one robot gave essentially a set of commands to other robots, and they followed. And that wasn't part of their original plan or coding. They were just supposed to be stationary, offline to the next day. I think it's at some sort of museum, and then you see the humans coming to try to figure out like what happened. But I actually, like, this was so alarming to me. I think my buddy or I kind of read further into it, and apparently, to some degree, the smaller robot, which I'll call the leader, was programmed to go communicate with these other set of robots and tell them to maybe do something or go home, as it said previously. But I think the set of parameters were loose. Like maybe they didn't know the time it was going to do it, or like, yeah, like how it was going to do it per se, but it was like loosely, it was in the code to execute that action. They just didn't know exactly how that action was going to get executed, which again, okay, cool. Not as bad. Like the robot didn't fly off the rails, not completely autonomous, but it's still kind of, like a coding should be very linear, I feel like. And it was just like kind of interesting. So just something to again, that has happened. Something that's out there to play with. Feel free to read into it. Comment. Like I said, I read one article on it, but just again fascinating to see like what's out there and what's happening in the space.
Yeah, I mean, that's scary because, at least like thinking about your phone, like as the phone software, you don't have access to, I think it's called a root, like it's called a root access for your phone's software. So you can't just start changing the iOS code
Right.
that's embedded so we have additional features, or like that's what Apple does. But then with AI, depending on what access the software has for its own programming language or like programming code, AI can write its own code, right?
Yeah.
Which is the scary part where these AI robots could be like going through evolution and thinking and processing.
Yeah.
And again, I mean, that goes back into the open source and the proper level of security that these applications require. And I mean, I would like to think that you can give those parameters outside of what the AI has access to. So you could tell the robot, like, hey, once it's programmed and set up, unless it's factory reset, you do not leave the confines of this home
Yep. Yep.
or something like that.
Right.
And I'm sure you can do it to where I rather have you not perform an action if it has a possibility of injuring me or
Yep.
harming me.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
Man, that's the what do you mean? What do you think about it? It's the doomsday side.
Right. And it's doomsday. And it's like, I don't know what actually, right. So when we talk about these more general home robots that have a set of factory parameters, and then it's supposed to, well, again, this doesn't exist or not to my knowledge. So I'm spitballing a little bit here, but I assume it's supposed to get delivered to a home and be tailored to that family or that owner, that person, their specifications, their lifestyle. But what happens when they are a little bit more advanced and you give a general code? And there's movies like this exist. I watched one, I can't think of it, but you say, hey, fold the laundry, vacuum once, twice a week, or when you perceive it gets dirty, um, wake me up at this hour every day until told otherwise, but and protect the house. Like that,
Yeah.
that's one of the commands. What does protect the house mean? Does that mean a dog runs across the lawn and it happens to be outside cutting the grass and it terminates the dog because it viewed it as a threat? Somebody breaks in and it kills. I mean, that, some people might want, I don't know, but it, you know, a guest comes over. Here's a good one. A guest, you have a kid, they have a play date. So his friend from school comes over and they're in a different room separate than you and they're wrestling. But your robot sees your kid that's part of the family, and part of the overarching command was protect this household, and it harms the kid that is playfully playing with your kid, and now the other parent is suing you. We could go on, but it's like,
I already see a lawsuit, dude. I can already
dude, it's
picture it.
it's within the operating specifications of the command you gave it, but like, is that something that you should verbally tell it to? How do you specify, or should that be written into the programming? I think it's going to advance. That's no question. But it's just like, and I mean, it's up to people way smarter than me to figure out. But that's the stuff that movies just like play with, and the theories that could exist. I don't know what
Because
that looks like. And
initially I was thinking, oh, like just don't equip these robots with anything that can harm other beings, right? But then at the house, that scares me because, like, if the robot's able to cook, what says that they can't grab a knife
exactly,
and stab the kid that's
exactly.
playing with the other kid?
Or if it has appendages, what if it just uses its hand or arm or foot, or it might not even need anything? Like, it could also punch and kick and do these human things because we've replicated human bodies that can do human movements. So it doesn't even need anything.
Dude, I actually might agree more on the timeline with you now. because
going to be
I mean,
hard to regulate that.
yeah, I mean, government. I am more. I don't want to say anti-government is totally the wrong word. I'm more
Yeah, yeah,
small
yeah.
government,
Yeah.
favoring small government. But at the same time, with things like this, even if government slows down the technological advancement of these
Mhm.
humanoid robots, these instances, it's required the government gets
Yes.
involved.
Yes.
With
Yes. And that's why I think you're going to have one or two things happen. You're going to have they're going to stay specialized and less general, which to my earlier point, I think the more general, the better, quote unquote, for functionality. But then again, when you're more general, you introduce dangers that we just talked about. Or you so that's if you make it more general, then you introduce more harm, or there's going to be way more safety code regulations, etc. Or you keep it specialized to a degree or just highly specialized, but then you're going to the price point might be too high and it might has less justification. So either way, I think you're going to have it be less specialized and people will want it because it's less specialized, or you're going to have it more generalized, but people will be more fearful because it's more generalized, and or there'll be more regulations, therefore take longer because it's more generalized. Those are the two kind of things my brain's working. We'll see. I don't know. I don't have an answer.
yeah, I do. Okay, I want to bring my own thoughts and commentary on this too, right?
Please.
Okay, so I wanted to bring this up earlier, way early in the podcast, which I just didn't have the right time to. So I was gonna just let it go. But now I'm gonna bring it full circle, at
Heck
least
yeah.
from this particular topic. With robots and stuff advancing, right? I think it was it wasn't a video that I watched, and I brought it up earlier, where then it was like a Meet Neo, your robot
Hmm.
butler, where they do a lot of the home
Hmm.
activities. But one of the points that it made in the video, I think it's so powerful. Where think about the electricity, right? Like at first, it was this remarkable technological advancement that we were able to, just like we fostered and then kind of master the usage of fire. We did
Yeah.
the same thing with electricity.
Yeah.
And now today, right? I have this light shining on me. I'm charging my laptop while we're doing
Hmm.
this. Electricity, you can use it with, I don't even know how it exactly works, to be honest. I mean, I learned about it in school. I took
Yeah,
classes, but I
yeah.
don't exactly know,
Nah,
right?
for real.
So it's like this magical thing that just we have so much abundance of electricity, or just like let's just say energy in, you know, as an umbrella term. We have
Okay.
so much abundance and ease of use with energy, right? And in the video, they kind of made the point with the same thing with robots. With think about it like the best way to say is like a minimum wage labor,
Okay.
like a sweatshop type level things, like
Yeah.
maybe easy cleaning. That like it's no one's dream career to do this
Do
job
it. Yep.
where the robot's gonna come in handy. And just like we have abundance of energy, we're gonna have abundance of labor, which I thought that was so powerful. Just i- in terms of like what human like like a human aspect, like in terms of humanity, like that just gets rid of so much stuff that I don't have to do. And it was talking about how it was going to advance other forms of just a human history because of these
Mm.
robots, where now you put these robots in a lab, and they're talking about there now you'll be able to do these scientific experiments repeatedly 24/7 with these robots with insane
Oh.
precision accuracy with their robot hands, and that just runs 24/7. You put these robots in a factory where there's certain stuff in the factory where it's still not automated, right? But you don't need to automate it anymore. You just put a stick of robot, and then just the way how they run it, like they can
Yep.
start sorting Amazon packages that a human
Right.
used to do right now, but then the robot works 24/7, right? Taking a step further into that, you can have robots making robots,
Yes. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So, obvious is this likely to happen? No, I don't think so. But imagine a setting where This is like where my looping around, like
Real quick,
looping
when you
happens.
say it's not likely to happen, are you saying robots aren't likely to autonomously make robots, like they come up with it themselves? Because I think we'll get to a point where we have robots and we tell them to make robots, like as production.
I was just leading it with I don't think it's about to happen with the something that I was about to say right after that.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think a human or robots making robots will definitely happen. I mean, it kind of happens right now, but I'm talking about
Yeah.
humanoid robots making
Got
humanoid
you.
robots.
Okay.
That's definitely going to happen. But where I don't think it's going to happen is where their humanoid robots are making humanoid robots in a with like a malicious intent to
Got you.
put like weapons that like the factory owners they don't know, like put these like weird advanced AI stuff. Like there's going to be monitor and surveillance with like a daily maintenance check of making sure all these things are running into place. Like so I don't think they're going to start mass producing. This robot's going to start mass producing these bad robots. That's going to start mass producing other robots without getting caught. And then they have like a bad robot army. I don't think that's going to happen.
So many movies about that. Yeah.
But it is scary with everything that we're talking about where a humanoid robot is making humanoid robots with a danger space. That's more or less likely to happen than what you brought up, but that was just kind of my logical thinking is
Mhm.
that's gonna be that's gonna be happening in our
Yeah.
lifetime.
Yeah. Yeah, I think in our lifetime. I was gonna say maybe not in our lifetime, but I think it'll happen. But it'll honestly probably happen in our
Yeah.
lifetime. And
And then
just go ahead.
while we're young, for like
Yeah.
40s, 50, we're still kicking, like doing
Mhm.
stuff. I think,
Mhm.
yeah.
Ooh, it's gonna be crazy. And just because I get pleasure out of it, I'm gonna take that case, right? Like you just laid out. You're gonna have humanoid robots making humanoid robots. Like you said, I'd like to believe there's always gonna be some level of human interference. Daily checks, like you said, security cameras that we can play back at any time to kind of see what's going on. But I'm like, if they're advanced, that they're like sneakily adding, I don't even know that's the word, but like trying to be sketchy and sneaky and add these upgrades to these robots that weren't a part of the original plan, they can probably enter the system of the building and lock the doors from humans coming in to do the daily check, hack the camera to make it on a loop feed where you can't see what's going on, and just keep doing whatever they're doing. And at that point, it's like, well, if they want to do it, they're probably going to do it. But I also like to think it's not even going to get close to that point. Um, yeah, because that's a more comforting thought than no, I don't think it will, but I'm just like, if it gets that far, like they're probably, you just got to shut down the whole operation. All right, this makes me want to go watch some old school robot movies which is also just so funny to see like movies 20, 30 years ago where it's like they're hypothesizing things that's like, oh, the future might blah blah blah, and like they're actually here now. I think that's hilarious.
I want to predict something, which I don't make a lot of predictions. So I want to, like, we're 2 hours into the podcast. There's not going to be too many people listening. So this is a perfect time to say it. I
It's
want
the
to say
longest
it.
episode to date, I think.
I want to say it so it's on record.
Yeah, all right.
Just to stroke my ego in the future if I'm correct. So, how think about the dot-com bubble, 2001, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
These internet, new technology, anything with .com, anything with website, mm, crazy overvalued, and there's a major crash. And after the crash, like actually the technology actually advances to like a usable, like everyday use case, and actually, grows the way it was supposed to grow. And there was I guess these looking at the history, everything of the boom and bust cycle, right? I think there's gonna be one for robotics companies.
Mm.
And just like the most recent examples, like we talked about .com, we talked about cryptocurrency and the blockchain technology. Anything that you were doing blockchain, like the company was like going crazy, valuated, right? And it crashes because we realized that's not here for a while. Most recent one is like the AI
Mm.
craze, where anything that people are doing
Yeah,
AI,
yeah.
like it's massively overvalued and it I think we saw a little bit of crash, not necessarily because of
Not
the
a
bust
crap.
of the AI, but like
Yeah.
macroeconomics wise, coming down to a better, more reasonable levels. But anyway, with the robots thing too, in the next probably like 5 years, we're gonna see a crazy surge in startup robot companies, like, and then already trading on the market, robot companies that gets massively this exponential level. Very, you look at a one
Yeah.
chart, like you look at the chart, and you're like, that's
That's insane. Yeah.
unsustainable. Immediately, that's gonna happen, and it's gonna crash. And if you're able to spot that trend, I think you will make a lot on the up and you will make a lot on the
Lose a
down.
lot. Yeah.
So just something to think about, that I will
Mm.
probably, because I was doing all this, I say research, but like I'm just reading articles. If the article is too long, I just copy and paste it, have ChatGPT summarize it. I'm watching a lot of videos. If it's a complex video, I download the transcript and have ChatGPT summarize it. That's
Mhm.
when I say research, right? I
Right.
don't want to sound prestigious or in any way. But looking at this company, or looking at this technology, I'm like, this is gonna be something to invest in, like truly. Like imagine investing in like the internet,
Right.
right?
At the right time.
At
Yeah.
the right
Like
time.
you,
So, but
life
again,
changing.
before the right time comes, because
Yeah.
I want to say we're super far away, but the super far away is like 10 years, not like
Yeah.
50.
Yeah. Right.
But because of that, there's gonna be the boom in the cycle in the robotics sector first. I think that's gonna come first, and then the right opportunities for investments will come. And I
Mm.
do like this makes me so bullish on the technology. Just like when I first used ChatGPT, I'm like, oh my god, this is insane.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, you
Hey,
gotta look for you gotta
you might
look
be
for
on
the
some B.
opportunities.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. For sure. I guess only time will tell.
Isn't it crazy
I
though? Um, so many people in history thought this is the last whatever advancement. They just thought they're like, this is the peak of the human
Mhm.
technological. When they probably when they started using the fire, they're like,
We made it.
this is
We're
it.
here.
This is what it
This is
means to
the
be a
highest
human.
level of living.
Or like when we found out wheels, I'm like,
Yeah. Like,
guys,
yo,
this is it.
flight,
Electricity,
airplanes,
internet, like
electricity.
it gets crazier and crazier, and then it just something that we don't even know about. By the time we're dying in our deathbeds, they're gonna be having the peak of
Okay.
human advancements.
Right,
Like
right, right, right,
that's
right.
just gonna be crazy, dude.
With you saying that, I have a question to end it. Do you think technology, and not even technology, just these human advancements that we kind of categorize, right? Do you think we will continue to see human advancements without ever a plateau? Like, right, we think AI robots, like this is peak, but we die and then there's something else. Do you think there will continue to be human advancements until either, I was gonna say, natural causes in the world, so like the sun burns out, and then by the time the heat makes it to Earth, like we all freeze. But at the time we might have, say, sustainable heat. I don't know. Basically, do you think natural causes will end the world, or do you think some level of advancements will end the world? This is a crazy question, kind of morbid, but you know what I mean. Because what I'm trying to get at is, do you, like you said, there's a history of, we unlock something as humans, as a human species. It's like, wow, this is great. This might be it. We unlock something else. We unlock. Will that unlocking ever stop? Do you think that unlocking will ever stop? Unless it has to stop due to like extinction.
Okay, okay,
But
okay.
like,
Okay, I'll tackle it in a way that covers
it's a,
everything.
it's a tough question.
I don't believe technological advancements for humans will ever plateau forever. We'll say
Yeah. Right, right,
forever.
right, right.
Because there could be a plateau for a little bit, but then it's
Sure.
like but then if the next big technology comes through, that might just
Yep.
refuel the
Yep.
growth. So no, I don't think human technological advancements will ever stop.
Okay.
And this in itself is a lot of people disagree with, right? They say at some point it's going to stop. I don't think it will ever stop. And how the world ends, because you proposed natural causes or like advancement
Yeah.
causes the end of humans too. I would like to think by the time the sun burns out, I think we will be out of the Milky Way galaxy already, like living in other galaxies. I mean, that's like billion. I mean, look how much we've come in the last 2,000 years, right?
Interesting.
So I don't think we'll be in Earth by then. Maybe the OGs might still the one family that still lives on Earth. You know, that might whatever. Um,
Mm,
so I don't think we'll die of natural causes, which in itself, I don't have. I mean, that's just my own thought, but it's also
yeah.
scary because Bill Gates, he says that we're gonna die of natural disaster or natural causes uh like the like the virus of
Right. That.
stuff like that.
Right.
Which Bill Gates, I mean, he's a genius guy, has a lot.
Yeah.
He has a lot of with his foundation. He's seen a lot of things, which is why that scares me.
Mm.
But I would think dumb human actions will end us rather than
Like
natural.
nuclear. Yeah. That's
Yeah,
what I was
like a
trying.
nuke
Yeah.
war that
Yeah. Yeah.
destroys.
You
Like I
gotta.
think that's more
Yeah.
probable than some kind of
Which is.
virus taking over the
Yep.
entire planet. Because we had like the Black Death, and before
I
that, like
agree.
killed.
Yeah.
I think they killed like 1/3 of the entire
Right.
population. It's
Insane.
insane.
Yeah. Something that speak. I keep trying to end it, but there's just so
Yeah, no, this
something
is a
that's. Yeah. This is juicy. Something that speaks to both the human ending of a species and the kind of biological, maybe like viral um ending. There's a show that I know you haven't seen on Paramount, excuse me, Hulu, I don't know, that me and Jazz recently watched, called Paradise. And it's, without giving any spoilers, it's about how a subset of the human population, very small subset, migrates underground and pretty much continue civilization underground with the premise that the rest of the world ended above ground. Like you come up and it's like
okay.
ashes. So like if someone alien came to Earth and like just scoured Earth and was like, there's no life here, but there is, they regenerated and had all the resources and restructured, pulling all the experts in all the fields needed to create life underground. And it's a very interesting concept. And it honestly, the way they depict it seems very doable. Like it was nothing far-fetched in that show. Um, so I was just wanted to bring that up. I agree with you that from what we've seen in history, I feel like it's hard to say that human advancement will ever stop. Like you said, it may plateau for a while. I think I agree that it'll never stop unless somehow we stop and cease to exist. Um, I can't help but to reintroduce what you originally put me onto in this conversation. We're literally talking about technological advancement, and you brought up galaxy. So I'm going to bring back up the Kardashev scale. I was like,
Yep.
bro, that's perfect for this conversation. And we talked about it once on an episode. I don't remember. Was it transportation?
Yeah.
Okay. You have a clear memory is far better than mine. But I just want to redefine that because it's so applicable. It says the Kardashev scale is a system proposed by Soviet astronomer Nikolai Kardashev, or Kardashev, I don't know how you pronounce it, in 1964 to classify the technological advancement of civilization based on the amount of energy that it can harness. That's pretty much it. But then it says it divides civilization into types based on their ability to utilize energy on planetary, stellar, and galactic scale. Because in my head, I'm thinking one thing that might limit us is resources, right? Like we get so advanced and we're now drawing more electricity, more processing power, whatever, solar, whatever. And maybe we somehow run out of resources, but this kind of challenges that. And he says, the three types of civilizations essentially is type 1, civilizations that can fully harness all energy available on their home planet. Type 2, civilizations that can harness all energy available from their star, often through devices like Dyson spheres, whatever the hell that is. And type 3, civilizations that can harness all energy available within their galaxy, which is just jaw-dropping to even try to think about. But yeah, I was like, kind of based on his theory, we could continue to advance and find alternate ways to draw energy. So I just wanted to put that in here for those that didn't see our transportation episode. But yeah, like,
hey, did you going
knows
back
where we're at.
before you talked about the Kardashian skill? You're talking about the underground city.
Yeah,
Did you see what they found under the pyramid?
I'm sure I heard it. Well, yeah, it was. It also built down too, right? Are you talking about that?
No, this is one of the biggest findings. Like recently, this happened in 2025, but
No.
they found an underground city, or what they claim to be an underground city, under the Pyramid of Giza.
Dude, I had
It's
not
a
heard that.
city.
I'm right. Like, I need scale, like how big, and also just due to the era that was built, it couldn't have been that sustainable. Like, they must have been coming up and down. You know what I mean? Instead of just like going down and staying down for years. I'd be curious because they didn't have. I mean,
Below the pyramid, 2,000 feet below, there's a city with like structure that look like houses, and these big pillars, massive pillars. Like, imagine,
dude,
I don't
wow.
know the size, but like there's like 10 of these like
I
structures.
got it. Yeah, I got to look this up after we get out. Yeah,
dude, it's scary.
This was found this year.
Yes, dude.
I don't know what's scarier, if the fact that existed then, or that we just found it now. Like, how do we not? Who knows if there's other? Yeah, that
2,000 feet below,
with home-like structures.
Please look it up.
How are they getting? Yeah, I have too many questions. I won't even start to ask. But
please look it up. I haven't honestly. I also haven't done too much research on it, but this was a major article. I mean, I don't say major, but like within
like
the
this should have been
space.
Yeah, I don't watch TV or like listen to news.
Like a can of worms, or
multiple cans of worms.
Not because like I was on the camp of like humans built the pyramid, but I don't know if they had the tech. Like, if they said the Egyptians built the pyramid, I could believe it, because a lot of people are like, oh, the aliens built or some other
life form, whatever
stuff built the pyramid. But now you're talking about structures 2,000 feet below the pyramid. Like, okay, that might be a little too far-fetched for the Egyptians, for
primitive technology.
Right. And is it one of those like the Black Panther type of thing where the Egyptian civilization that was overground was this like a fake society, and like the real people like lived underground?
Yeah, like I said, infinite questions.
Yeah, this is crazy stuff, but
yeah, I feel energized after talking about all this. Anyways, that's our Rebel Wisdom take on robotics. Maybe how people view it, use cases, where it's going, all of the above. B, how you feeling?
No, I feel good. Yeah, I just want to. I mean, my summary of it is, I mean, there's a lot of doomsday scenario that we can definitely talk about, but it's
right.
The technology is coming. It's unavoidable. It's gonna happen, and I do think humanoid robots will. I mean, I guess like that category in general will bring more good and even further technological advancements for the human society or human history, thus to come. And I think I said it before, but I think this robot revolution is going to be on the scale of major turning points in human history, where the fire, the wheel, steam engine, electricity, AI, computers, internet, that's going to be that level of significance, I personally believe.
Shoot, that's it. Appreciate y'all tuning in. Catch us next week for a new fresh episode.